So I was at the cemetery the other day visiting my mom's grave,
Yeah.
and I saw something I'd never seen before.
Okay.
A QR code right on the monument.
That's actually becoming more and more common these days.
Really?
Yeah, it's part of this whole thing called digital memorialization.
Hmm. Digital memorialization.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of high tech for a cemetery.
It is high tech, but it's not about replacing those traditional memorials. It's
Oh.
more about adding to it, like new layers to how we remember people.
So I guess that means we're not going to have holograms popping out of graves anytime soon.
Not yet, at least. Although with tech these days, who knows?
Right.
The idea with this whole digital memorialization thing is to use technology to make memorials more interactive, more accessible,
Okay.
and more personalized.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So besides QR codes on headstones, what are some other examples of this digital memorialization?
Well, one example is virtual memorials.
Oh, okay.
These are like online spaces dedicated to someone who has passed away. They can be websites, social media pages, even interactive platforms where people can share memories, photos, videos, and stories.
That's really cool. It's like a digital scrapbook that the whole family can contribute to no matter where they live in the world.
Exactly. It breaks down all those geographical barriers and allows everyone to stay connected and, grieve together.
That's really powerful, especially nowadays with families spread out all over the place.
Absolutely. And it's also really helpful for people who can't physically visit a gravesite for whatever reason.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Ah.
Are there any ways that technology is being used, like right there at the gravesite itself?
Definitely. There's something called interactive grave markers,
Okay.
and they actually use things like QR codes or NFC tags to give visitors more information about the deceased.
Hold on. NFC tags.
Yeah.
What are those? I mean, I know about QR codes, but...
They're similar to QR codes, but you don't need to scan them with your phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just tap your phone on the tag and it pulls up the information.
Oh, that's cool. So what kind of information are we talking about?
Pretty much anything you can imagine. Photos, videos, audio recordings, biographies, family trees. You could even have a video of the person talking, telling their own life story.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It would almost be like having them right there with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really does make the whole experience so much more personal and immersive.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as a QR code can add so much depth to a traditional headstone.
Yeah, it's like this little secret portal into someone's life, hidden in plain sight.
I like that. And that's what's so exciting about digital memorialization. It's opening up all these new ways for us to connect with the memories of the people we've lost.
Okay, so we've got virtual memorials, interactive grave markers, and QR codes on headstones. But why is this all happening now? What's driving this whole digital memorialization trend?
Well, there are a few things at play. For one, technology has become such a big part of our lives that it makes sense for it to also be part of how we grieve and remember people.
Yeah, we share so much of our lives online anyway.
Yeah.
Why not incorporate that into how we honor our loved ones?
Exactly. And our society is increasingly mobile too. Families are often spread out across the globe, which makes it tough for everyone to get together at a physical memorial.
Yeah.
Digital memorialization gives people a way to connect no matter where they are.
It's like a virtual gathering place for sharing memories and grief.
Precisely. And another big factor is this desire for personalization. People want to create tributes that really reflect the unique person they've lost. And digital tools give us so much more flexibility and creativity to do that.
It's about capturing their essence, their passions, their quirks, all the things that made them special.
Exactly. It's not just about names and dates on a stone anymore. It's about painting a much richer and more multifaceted portrait of their life.
This is really fascinating.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how I'd want to be remembered in this digital age. It's like we're all curating our digital legacies, whether we realize it or not.
That's such an interesting point. It really brings up all these questions about how we want to be represented online and what we want to leave behind for future generations.
It's definitely something to think about. So we've talked about all the cool things that digital memorialization can do, but are there any downsides? Any risks or concerns that people should be aware of?
Yeah, those are important questions for sure and definitely worth exploring.
Okay, so let's dive into that next.
You're right. It's really important to look at both the good and the bad of any new technology.
Uh-huh.
And while there are a lot of benefits to digital memorialization,
Yeah.
there are some things we should be thinking about too.
Okay, what kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one of the biggest ones is privacy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anytime you're dealing with information online,
Right.
there's always the risk of someone getting access to it who shouldn't.
So someone could like hack into a virtual memorial and mess with the content or steal people's personal info?
It's possible, but most of these websites have pretty strong security to prevent that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's more about just being aware of the potential risks and choosing carefully.
Yeah, it's like anything else online. You got to be careful about what you share.
Exactly. Another concern is about the information being accurate.
Oh, right. Because anyone can contribute to these virtual memorials.
Yeah, and that means there's always a chance that someone might add misinformation or even purposely make wrong edits.
So how do you make sure that what's on there is actually true?
Some platforms have people who check the content before it's published.
Okay,
Others rely on the community to flag things that might be problems.
gotcha.
It's definitely a challenge, but there are ways to manage those risks.
This also makes me think about how things can last forever online. Once something is posted, it can be really hard to get rid of it completely.
Right.
So what if someone posts something they regret later, or some of the information needs to be updated?
That's a valid concern, and it just shows why we need to be thoughtful about what we post online.
Right, especially for something like a memorial.
Yeah. Some platforms let you edit or delete things. But it's not always perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of like a digital tattoo. Think before you ink.
I like that. But on a serious note,
Right.
another thing to consider is accessibility. Not everyone is comfortable with technology
Oh,
or has access to the internet.
yeah, so this digital memorialization could end up leaving some people out.
That's a great point, and something we need to be mindful of. We need to make sure that everyone can participate in remembering their loved ones no matter what their tech skills are like.
So how do we do that? How do we make sure everyone is included?
Well, it's a challenge, but one solution might be to combine digital elements with traditional forms of memorialization.
Okay, so like a hybrid approach.
Exactly. Or we could focus on making digital platforms that are more user-friendly for everyone.
So basically finding that balance between new tech and making sure everyone can be a part of it.
Exactly. And keep in mind that all this is still pretty new.
Right.
Things are changing fast. So what seems groundbreaking today could be totally normal in a few years.
Well, that makes me wonder what the future of digital memorialization will look like. We've talked about virtual reality and augmented reality, but what other kinds of tech could be involved?
One area that I find really interesting is artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow.
Imagine if you could actually talk to a digital version of someone who has passed away.
That's kind of creepy.
It is a little bit, right? But imagine if this AI was powered by all their memories and personality traits.
So you could have an actual conversation with a virtual version of someone you've lost.
Exactly. It sounds wild, right?
It does.
But AI is advancing so quickly, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
It really makes you think about where the line is between keeping someone's memory alive and creating something entirely new.
Yeah, it brings up a lot of questions about ethics and philosophy that we need to talk about as a society.
It's like we're moving into a whole new world of remembrance, a digital world where the line between life and death is kind of blurry.
That's a great way to put it. And even with all this new technology, it's important to remember that at its core, memorialization is still about the human need to connect and remember the people we've lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a headstone, a virtual memorial, or some futuristic AI experience. It's all about honoring their lives and keeping their stories alive.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And this actually leads perfectly into something else we should talk about.
Oh, okay. What's that?
How people have remembered loved ones throughout history, before we had all this digital stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let's go back in time a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is amazing how much technology has changed things.
It really has.
And it's changed how we live, how we work, and even how we grieve.
It's true, but people have been remembering loved ones for centuries.
Oh, yeah, way before all this technology.
Exactly. It's a basic part of being human.
So what did people do before the digital age? Like, how did they honor their loved ones?
Well, think about ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians.
Yeah.
They went all out building those elaborate tombs and pyramids.
Oh, yeah, filled with all kinds of treasure and offerings.
Exactly. All to make sure the pharaohs had a good afterlife.
And those pyramids are still standing today. It's incredible.
Thousands of years later.
I know, it really shows you how important it's always been for people to find ways to honor the dead.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about building these huge structures either.
Right.
There were simple headstones, mausoleums, even those roadside memorials.
Yeah, those are everywhere.
And they all served as reminders of the people who are gone.
And you can't forget about all those personal things that families keep.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
Like letters, diaries, photo albums, jewelry, all that stuff.
Those objects really do hold so much history and meaning.
It's like holding a piece of their story in your hand.
Exactly.
It's fascinating to see how things have changed over time. And now with all this digital stuff, it feels like we're entering a whole new phase of memorialization.
Definitely. Digital memorialization is adding something completely new to how we remember people.
It's opening up possibilities that people in the past never could have imagined.
It really is. So how do you see all this fitting in with the history of memorialization?
Yeah, is it a total break from the past, or is it more like a continuation?
That's a really good question. I think it's kind of both.
Okay, how so?
On the one hand, digital memorialization is definitely different from traditional ways of remembering.
Uh-huh.
It's bringing in all these new tools and platforms
Right.
and doing things that just weren't possible before.
Like making a virtual reality experience of someone's life.
Yeah, exactly. That would have blown people's minds back in the day.
Totally. But at the same time, I think digital memorialization still has those same core values.
Oh, absolutely. Like what?
Like wanting to keep memories alive, sharing stories, creating lasting tributes.
Yeah.
All those things that are important to us as humans.
Those are timeless, and now they're finding new ways to be expressed through technology.
So it's not about replacing the old ways.
Right.
It's about adding to them.
Using technology to strengthen our connection to the people we've lost.
And who knows what amazing new forms of digital memorialization we'll come up with in the future.
Yeah, we've talked about virtual and augmented reality, but what about artificial intelligence?
Right, or biodigital technology. It feels like there are so many possibilities.
Imagine being able to actually interact with a digital version of a loved one that's like powered by their actual memories and personality.
Whoa, now that's getting a little sci-fi.
I know, right? It's pretty mind-blowing to think about.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening conversation.
It has.
I feel like I have a much better understanding of what digital memorialization is all about.
Me too. It really makes you think about the bigger picture and how technology is changing everything.
And I think this is just the beginning.
Oh, definitely. As technology keeps advancing our ways of remembering, people will keep changing too.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up our conversation about digital memorialization.
Yeah, I think so too. But before we go, I want to thank you for sharing all your insights with us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I always enjoy talking about stuff like this.
And to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us.
We hope you learned some interesting stuff.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.